As I said, we are assuming that we have a case of Delta that we are dealing with. International evidence and science around the Delta variant of COVID-19 shows that it is potentially twice as infectious and more liable to cause severe illness. As Professor Skegg's report set out last week, with Delta raging around the world, it was experts' view that it was not a matter of if but when. As it is, we are one of the last countries in the world to have the Delta variant in our community. This has given us the chance to learn from others. And while this is a situation no one wants to be in, there are benefits to being amongst the last. We are in the position to learn from experience overseas and what actions work and what actions don't work. On that front, Delta has been called a game changer, and it is. It means we need to again go hard and early to stop the spread. We have seen what can happen elsewhere if we fail to get on top of it. We only get one chance. That's why Cabinet has met this afternoon and made the decision that New Zealand will move to Alert Level 4 from 11:59 p.m. tonight. Level 4 will be for an initial period of 3 days, except for Auckland and the Coromandel Peninsula, who we anticipate will likely be at Level 4 for 7 days, due to them being most closely linked to our current case. Over this time, we will be looking for testing results from people from locations of interest, wastewater testing, and general community testing of those with cold and flu symptoms elsewhere in the country. Our plan over the coming days is assess if there are undetected chains of transmission elsewhere, to track down the source case and to assure ourselves that there aren't other cases in the community elsewhere. We have made decisions on the basis that it is better to start high and go down levels rather than start too low, not contain the virus, and see it move quickly. We've seen the dire consequences of taking too long to act in other countries, not least our neighbours. Just as we successfully stayed home and saved lives last year, I'm asking the team of 5 million to unite once more to defeat what is likely to be this more dangerous and transmissible variant of the virus. Now, I want to come back to what Level 4 involves, given it has been a year since we used this, the highest alert level that we have. The underlying principle for Level 4 is reduce down contact between people to a bare minimum, essential contact only. That means the simplest thing New Zealanders can do to stop the spread of the virus is to stay at home. Beating Delta means lifting our game. Delta spreads more easily via the air, so physical distancing is even more important. As we've seen overseas, particularly in Sydney, unnecessary trips outdoors have spread the virus and mean communities have not been able to get on top of it. So I ask New Zealanders to please follow the rules to the letter. Let me quickly expand on each of the reasons for leaving your home. Some of the common questions that you might have. The reasons for leaving your home under Alert Level 4 include physical exercise in your neighbourhood, visiting the supermarket, dairy or pharmacy, necessary medical care, or getting a test. And if you undertake these activities, please wear a mask when you leave the house. Let me expand in a little more detail on each of those reasons for leaving your home. People in the past have asked if they can leave their home for a walk, for instance. Yes, you can. Or to take your children out on their scooters, for instance. But we ask people to stay 2 metres away from anyone you pass. Stay local and do not congregate. Don't talk to your neighbours. Please keep to your bubbles. It comes down again to those very simple principles. We know from overseas cases of the Delta variant that it can be spread by people simply walking past one another. So keep those movements outside to the bare minimum, wear a mask, and make sure you keep up that physical distancing. The bubble is back. The people in your bubble should be the people in your immediate household or those dependent on you. Once you go into a bubble, you must stay in it, and others cannot join. That risks spreading COVID. If you are completely isolated or you live alone, remember you can join a bubble with one other person that you have contact with. It needs to be just you and that person, though. You must be faithful to them, and they must be faithful to you. Those in those circumstances will remember those rules from our last level 4. If you have multiple contacts with others, that is where the risk increases, and we cannot afford that. You can drive locally to your supermarket to get food, but again, we ask that you maintain your physical distance, again, to 2 metres from others who may be undertaking essential errands, and again, please wear a mask. Other than that, we're asking people to stay home. Only shop when you need to. And it is preferable that there is just one person per household that goes shopping to reduce any risk of spread, and that they follow the instructions of staff. Remember to always act like you have COVID-19. Stay clear of others. Don't put them in harm's way in the same way you'd expect that they don't put you in harm's way. There will be economic support available, and I will ask Minister Robertson to outline the available measures at the conclusion of this first introductory press conference and questions. On vaccinations, we will be suspending vaccinations for 48 hours while we ensure that vaccinations are unable to take place in a safe environment, both for our vaccinators and those who may be visiting. We have currently 40% of our eligible population vaccinated with at least 1 dose. We want that to continue safely, and when we can, we will. We will provide a further update on that in the next 24 hours. I want to finish by acknowledging our frontline workers. The most important thing we can do to acknowledge their work is to only leave home for the reasons that I have described. I know that one of the worst things about COVID-19 is the absolute uncertainty that it creates. But we know more now than we did a year ago. We know that this strategy works. We know that we are a strong team of 5 million. And we know that life will get easier. We just need to keep going. We'll both be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. to provide you with an update of all of the information that we have. Till then, please take care and please be kind to one another. We're happy to take questions.
Prime Minister, how likely is it that those lockdowns could be extended if you're taking this harder and faster and more cautious response than ever?
As it stands, the decision to go for 7 days was because we didn't want to provide for those areas that really are closely linked to this case any false hope by saying it would be a short lockdown. At this stage, we don't know. So we wanted to give a clear indication it is most likely to be 7. We keep it under constant advisement, and for the rest of the country, that's why I've indicated at this stage that we're working to 3.
What was the issue with the case, perhaps you could address this, Dr. Luca, what was the issue with the case not being able to access the vaccine booking system?
Just reported that he had an issue with the website, but again, his wife has been fully vaccinated and he was in the process of doing so.
What does that have on how infectious Delta could be, though, because he'd be less infectious, wouldn't he, had he been able to get that vaccination?
Mixed results on that at the moment.
Yes, so he was making every attempt to book in his vaccination. He's in that age group between 55 and 60 that has just come online in the last week or two. So I did want to convey that even though he is not vaccinated, and I put myself in that group, I had my first vaccination booked, he was making every effort to be vaccinated, and indeed, as the PM said, his wife was vaccinated.
What is your message?
And the one thing that I would also add, yes, we're seeing evidence that suggests for that first dose something in the range of 30% reduction in the likelihood of transmission, but it is not 100%. And so that's why vaccinated people should follow the rules like everybody else. We need everyone to play their part here.
We've seen, over in Australia, we've seen problems with compliance. What is your message to people who question the need for an alert level 4 lockdown?
Australia. We just need to look overseas at what has happened there because of some of the decisions of those covered by those lockdowns, some who may not have necessarily followed the rules. It has essentially extended the period of time that they're there. New Zealand hasn't had that same experience. For those periods we've had lockdowns, by and large, there's been really good compliance. So I just say to Kiwis, do what you've done before. We want to be short and sharp rather than light and long. We've seen what happened in Sydney. We don't want that experience here. If we all comply, it lifts our chances of getting out of this